I'll never forget the way he looked when he stepped off that plane. After 20 years, he was finally back. His skin had become darker, his hair longer, his face a little thinner, but his eyes, they were still the same. That spark, that hope, that belief that the sacrifices he had made had led him back to something good. He walked out of the airport with a wide smile, arms open, looking for his family. I saw him from a distance, and for a moment, I thought maybe things would be different. Maybe he would walk into his home, and everything would be exactly how they promised him it would be. John had worked hard. No one could deny that. The jobs he did in Turkey, manual labor, construction work, the shabu-shabu jobs as they called them, were brutal. He cleaned floors, lifted heavy boxes, worked in construction sites. I remember him telling me how people treated him like he was invisible, as if his worth was only measured by the work he could do. But he never complained. He would always say, "One day, it will be worth it. One day, I'll come home and show them what I've built." And so, he kept sending money. Every month, without fail. At first, it was just small amounts, but as time went on, he started sending bigger sums. I could see how his family's lifestyle started to change. They were living better, his father got a new car, his siblings had new clothes, his mother always had the best food. They told him that they were investing in land, that they were building his house, the one he had always dreamed of coming home to. But that day, the day he returned, I saw something that made my stomach turn. He had flown back with the idea that his family had built a house for him. He believed that the land he had been sending money for all those years had finally been turned into something solid, something real. A home. A place where he could rest after working so hard. A place where his mother's smile would greet him every day. I watched him walk toward his family, his arms stretched wide, ready to embrace the life he had worked for. But no one was there to meet him at the airport. His mother, his father, his siblings, none of them were there. Only me. He looked confused for a moment, then started calling their names, walking toward the entrance of the terminal. "Mama! Papa!" he shouted, his voice echoing in the busy airport. I could feel the tension in the air, the sadness creeping up inside me. Something was wrong. I had seen the signs, the family's newfound wealth, their never-ending excuses, the way they always avoided showing John the land or the so-called house. But I didn't have the heart to tell him then. I knew that if I told him the truth, if I shattered the dream he'd carried for so long, I'd break him in a way I couldn't repair. So I stayed quiet, walking behind him, unsure of how to say the words that were burning inside me. After waiting for what felt like forever, John's father finally arrived, driving his brand new car, with his mother beside him, wearing the latest designer clothes. The smile on John's face was the brightest I'd ever seen. It was a smile that said, "I made it." But as they approached, something was off. His father didn't jump out of the car with excitement. His mother didn't rush to him with tears in her eyes. Instead, they both got out slowly, as if they had rehearsed the moment, like they were putting on a show for him. "John," his father said, his voice strained, almost forced. "Welcome home, my son. You've worked hard, haven't you? We are so proud of you." John smiled, his eyes bright. "I've missed you all so much. I can't wait to see the house you've built for me." The silence that followed was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. His parents exchanged quick glances, and for a moment, I thought his father might say something, but he didn't. His mother, who had always been the one to assure him everything was fine, took a deep breath and said, It's a little complicated, John. The land, the house, we've had some problems. But we'll fix it. We'll get it done, don't worry. Just give us time." John's smile faltered, but only for a second. "It's okay, Mama. I've waited this long. I can wait a little longer. But there was no house. There never had been. That evening, as the sun set, we sat together, just the three of us. John was still waiting for the grand reveal, still waiting for his family to show him what they had promised. I had to say something. I couldn't let him go on like this. "John," I said, my voice shaking. "You need to know the truth." He turned to me, his face still full of hope. "What do you mean?" "What truth?" "The truth about the money. The house. The land." I swallowed hard, feeling a lump rise in my throat. "They never built anything, John. They lied to you. All these years. They spent the money on themselves. They've been living well while you worked yourself to the bone." The look on his face was something I will never forget. His eyes widened, and for a moment, he didn't say anything. Then, slowly, he stood up, looking at me like I had betrayed him. "What are you talking about?" No, that's not true. They wouldn't do that. I wish I was wrong, but I'm not. I went to the village. I asked people. There's no land, no house. It was all a lie." He just stared at me, his hands shaking. Then, as if it hit him all at once, he collapsed onto the ground, his body trembling with sobs. I wanted to comfort him, to tell him it would be okay, but I knew it wouldn't. It was too late. The truth was out, and it was more than he could bear. He had given everything, all his sweat, all his strength, for a family that had taken advantage of him. They had lied to him for 20 years, and he had believed them every single time. His father and mother, the people who were supposed to love him the most, had sold him a dream that was never real. In the days that followed, John didn't say much. He just sat in silence, staring at the empty field where his house was supposed to be. His parents tried to apologize, tried to explain, but their words fell on deaf ears. John wouldn't even look at them. The dream he had carried with him all those years was shattered. And there was no fixing it. He left the house soon after, packing his bags and heading back to Turkey. He couldn't stay. Not in a place where every street, every building, every face reminded him of the lie. I didn't see John again after that. I don't know if he ever came back home. I don't know if he ever forgave his family. But I do know this, no matter how hard he worked, no matter how much he sacrificed, there was no home waiting for him. There was no reward, no love, no respect. Just lies. And it haunts me, because I could have stopped it. I could have told him the truth sooner. But now, it's too late. John is out there somewhere, still working, still dreaming of a home that will never exist. And every time I think about him, I wonder if he'll ever find peace. Days turned into weeks, and I stayed in the village, watching the place that had once been full of life now feel empty. The laughter that used to echo through the compound was gone, replaced by a heavy silence. The village seemed smaller now, and even the sun felt distant. It was like everything was dimmed, and it was all because of the truth I had revealed. I never heard from John again. It's as if he had vanished from the world, slipping through the cracks of his own broken dreams. His family tried to reach out, but I saw how they had changed too. His mother, once so strong in her beliefs and her promises, had grown fragile. She stopped wearing the expensive clothes she used to buy with John's money, and I caught her sometimes sitting in the corner of the house, staring at the empty walls, lost in thought. His father, too, had become quieter. He no longer had the proud, confident air he once carried when speaking about John's hard work. They no longer had anyone to blame but themselves. I didn't tell anyone else about what had happened. The shame was too deep. It wasn't just John's pride that had been broken, it was the whole family's. They had built this lie together, each person adding to it with their own version of what they thought was true. And when the lie crumbled, it crushed everything in its path. I couldn't bring myself to go back to Turkey. The thought of seeing John again, knowing how much pain he must have been carrying, felt like something I couldn't bear. I didn't know where he was or what he was doing. I could only imagine him, walking through the streets of Turkey, a man without a home to return to, a man who had given everything for people who didn't deserve him. It was months later when I finally heard about him again. A friend of mine, someone who worked in the city, told me he had seen John in the market, working again, doing the same kinds of jobs he used to do when he first arrived in Turkey. The kind of jobs that break a person's body and spirit. He had seen John's face, tired, worn out, but with that same quiet determination. But this time, there was no smile. No hope in his eyes. Just exhaustion. I didn't know whether to be relieved or heartbroken. At least he was alive, but it felt like he had disappeared into the system, into the work, just another anonymous laborer among thousands of others. The man who had once dreamed of building a future had now become part of the machine he had once tried to escape. Then, one evening, I saw John's father standing outside the village, looking out over the fields as if waiting for something. His face was drawn with guilt, and I could see the weight of regret bearing down on him. I stood a few feet away from him, not sure whether I should approach. I had no words left to say to him, to anyone. He didn't turn when he spoke, but his voice was low and broken. "Do you think he'll ever come back?" I didn't answer. There was no answer. No way to fix what had been broken. No way to erase the years of lies. I watched him as he stood there, waiting for a son who had already lost everything. When John's father didn't get an answer from me, he let out a long, slow breath and finally turned to face me. His eyes, tired and regretful, met mine. I thought we were doing the right thing. I really did. I thought we were building something, that we were making a future for him. I thought he'd come home to something that would make him proud, make all the pain worth it. He paused, his voice cracking. But now I don't know what's left for him. Or for us. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about John, where he was, what he was doing, how he was coping. I thought about all the dreams he'd had, the sacrifices he'd made. I thought about how his family had robbed him of all of that, leaving him with nothing but empty promises and an unfulfilled life. And yet, in some twisted way, I knew they thought they had been doing what was best for him. They had convinced themselves that the lies were somehow justified, that the end would justify the means. But there was no end. There was no resolution. Only the emptiness left behind when you work your entire life for something that doesn't exist. I kept waiting for some kind of reconciliation. For John to come back, for his family to make it right. I kept hoping that one day, he'd return with that same hope in his eyes, the hope that I had seen when he first left for Turkey. But that hope slowly faded with time, like the last embers of a fire that had long since burned out. I still don't know if he'll ever come back home. I don't know if he'll ever forgive his family, or if he'll ever find peace. I don't know if he'll ever be able to rebuild the life they stole from him. And maybe that's the saddest part of all. John spent 20 years working himself to the bone, believing in a future that was never real, and now, all he has is the shattered pieces of a dream. I never forget the way he looked at me the last time we spoke, his face full of disbelief, like he couldn't fathom how everything he had worked for could be so empty. That look is burned into my memory, and I don't think I'll ever be able to shake it. And I can't help but wonder if John ever does come back to the village, if he ever returns to the place that once held his hope, will he be able to find it again? Or will the lie of his family, the lie of his dreams, be too much to bear? I don't know. But I do know that when he left for Turkey, he left behind more than just a family. He left behind a part of himself, and no matter how hard he works, no matter how many years pass, I don't think he'll ever get that part of him back.